Welcome everybody to another video brought to you by Stardust Automotive, located in Jacksonville, North Carolina, right outside of Camp Lejeune Marine Military Base. Hoorah! So, if you guys like these videos, please keep liking them, please keep sharing them, and if you are led to, please help support me and these videos as they do take time. And being a small businessman, it is very appreciated. So I'll leave my Cash App link in the bottom. If you want to go ahead and bless me, please do. Donations are definitely welcome. And I'd like to keep making these videos. So if you can, hey, please support me. As told before, we are the #1 repair shop locally out here. And we are, for the 4th time, North Carolina's #1 engine building shop. So I thank all my customers and everybody else that voted us in for last year, for 2023. So thank you very much. I'm greatly appreciated. So let's get down to business here. So we are working on a 2003 Ford Mustang GT Deluxe. It is a convertible. It is beautiful. So the customer ended up coming in, had an issue with their engine. They've had it down at 2 other shops. He's been through multiple engines, keeps blowing up. They keep rebuilding them, and there's always an issue. So a couple different things I want to go over with you guys. So that y'all understand what to look for if you try to build these things on your own. There is a right way and a wrong way. So the first thing I would say is, look, I know it's real easy to get caught up when you don't have money for things, but you cannot use cheap Chinese parts in a performance build an engine. And I'll tell you why. You can see this has forged pistons in there, forged rotating assembly, forged rods, forged crankshaft, ARP studs, HKS, main bolt studded kit in there, and the whole 9 yards. So these were only mild heads that were done, but you can see what happens here in the bottom. The piston is destroyed. The head is destroyed. And I'll get to you in a minute and I'll show you why. All right. So we all know that 4.6 engines, especially the 2 valves, are what they call interference engines, which means if the timing chain breaks, most times the engine's going to get destroyed because the piston, as it comes up, interferes with the length of the time that the valves are open, and the valve basically kisses the top of the piston and the engine eats itself. And that's exactly what happened with this, because his chain broke as the piston was coming up. The camshaft was in its intake stroke, the intake valve was opened up, and boom, they kissed, and there went his engine. So all that money that was in that engine, and I don't even understand why nobody caught this, but take a look at the timing chain, okay? Cheap timing chains are a problem. You spend all this money on an engine, on all these forged parts, and then you cheap out using a cheap Chinese chain. Even some of the aftermarket ones that are supposed to be decent ones, I'm not real happy with. They kind of look very, very similar. They're very thin, very cheap. So what we have on here is just a genuine OEM Ford one. And I want you to make a note of a couple different things. So if you look at the intermediate chain links, right? Look at the length difference in these things. Look at the thickness. Look how they're squared out, right? Huge difference. The chain link plates, look at the size difference on these, right? Look at that. These are so much wider and thicker than these are, right? So it's no wonder why this chain failed and then caused catastrophic damage to his engine. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, the other 2 shops that had it at, he was having timing issues. The engine was just running really sluggish. He's running a Vortec V2 Supercharger over there. He's got a set of 42-pound injectors by Bosch. And, he's got some good stuff in it, but it always was lacking power. It was stuttering over itself. And this is why it's absolutely crucial, if you're going to do these things, you check every single mechanical component on a vehicle, period. You never trust anything, not a rocker arm, not a lifter, nothing. And I'm going to show you why. So right now, this 4.6, he's got us building this engine. It is a stroked out 4.6 liter 2-valve. It's stroked out to a 5.0. It's got negative 21 dish pistons. Thank you, DSS Racing. You guys are absolutely amazing. We've been dealing with them for years. They got great parts. Customer service is great. Just a great overall company. I like DSS Racing. So we got the DSS minus 21 forged pistons. They do have the valve reliefs. They are technically set up for a 3-valve, but you can still utilize them for a 2-valve as well. Compression ratio will just be a smidge off, but the way I've got these set up, it'll all balance itself out. But anyway, it's got fully CNC'd heads. It's got the 1mm Ferrero valves that are in there. So this is the last set that Lake had. Lake went out of business, but the heads alone cost, almost $5,500. So they ain't cheap. He's got a set of 268 cams in here. I was getting ready to go ahead and degree him when I realized he doesn't have adjustable cam gears. I want to make sure that the cam gears in themselves are nice and tight on the camshaft, which they are. But when you degree these things, and you have to degree them, you have to have an adjustable cam gears. Most times they're off by a degree or two. The one side, the passenger side is usually off. I'm sorry, the driver's side is usually off between like 2 and 4 degrees anyway, so it just helps. But even if we put this whole thing together, degreed everything out, blah, 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 there would still be a monster issue with this. And I'm certain most people probably overlook this. And this issue is this reluctor wheel right here. So most times people just plop them on there. They'll call them a day, be like, all right, hey, it's good. And this part is so overlooked. Now, let me explain something to you. The reason why this is very, very critical and important is because this reluctor wheel is what tells the PCM where top dead center is. So if this is even half a degree off, it's going to affect the timing of the fuel injectors and the timing of the coil packs and when they come on. So it uses a reluctor wheel to read each one of these slots, and each one of these slots is basically telling it when to fire. This gap and opening, the PCM reads as top dead center, and it reads the amount of time that it goes from one pin to the other pin. So if this is even slightly off, so are going to be the coil packs, and so is the timing of the injectors. Now on this one, you can see I've got it zeroed out, okay? Now watch what happens when I move this. It moves up to 21 thousandths of an inch off. That is huge. This whole reluctor wheel is trashed. So you can see the crankshaft's not moving, but the reluctor wheel is. Look at that. Look at that monster gap there. 0 to 21 thousandths of an inch off. Do you know how many degrees of timing that is? So as his engine, all his engines he's had in this car have been legitimately eating themselves up because of this issue right here that every single person has been missing. This is why it's absolutely critical and crucial and critical that you check every single mechanical component, regardless whether it looks good, because this looks all right. You know what I mean? But to most people's eyes, they'd look at this, say, oh, okay, that doesn't look bad. It looks clean, looks good. And they would throw it on without realizing this moves the amount of degrees that it does. So, again, you can plop this back in there. And look how much that's moving. So, now let me explain the functionality of this, too, in case somebody's sitting there go, oh, I don't get it, I don't understand. You have a crank sensor. And that sensor, it doesn't send out amperage. It doesn't have voltage going to it. What it does is it sends out an oscillation wave. So if you can imagine a long square wave, right? That's what it does. And then when it gets to here, as it comes up, it has a longer wave. And then it just basically sends out a square wave. That's the main purpose of a crank sensor, is it just reads the signal. So what happens is if you are a fraction of an inch off, I mean, this stuff reads within a microsecond. All right. So if you look here, right, I'll keep it real still. See how it's just going a bit off? So if by the time it's supposed to fire, it's supposed to be forward, now you're advanced, right? So this is going forward. Now you're in an advanced mode. So if at this top point is when it reads, says, okay, the piston's at top dead center, fire that ignition. Then what happens is the spark plugs, the fuel injectors, all that fires when they need to, and it's timed in. Now, in this situation, boom, see how it goes back? So if you're supposed to be here, that fraction of an inch, now it's slightly retarded, which means those injectors are going to fire at the wrong time, and the coil packs are going to spark that ignition before that piston reaches top dead center. And that's like taking a hammer and smashing it on the top of a piston. That's very violent for a engine to withstand over and over and over again. So you can only imagine what the hell was going on with that engine prior and why it was running so bad. And the previous engine out of it was running so bad, and everything else was running so bad in it. So little things like that, you got to check. You know, piston to deck height. We've checked all of them. They're within like 200,000ths of an inch of each other on the driver's side. Passenger side was off by about 300,000, so it's still within tolerance and specs, but things like that you have to be able to tolerate. So most of these are 100,000th below deck. I'm sorry, 110,000. No, that's right, 100,000th below deck. While this over here is off by about 3,000ths of an inch outside of this side. So we can kind of compensate with that a little bit by playing with the head gasket thickness and everything else. But I've already got this deadballed right where it needs to. I'm not going to go into all that right now. But I just want you guys to understand when you're building these things, you got to check these things, because if you're slightly off, you only have between, 3,000ths of an inch between the valve and the piston on top dead center once everything is timed in properly. You add in heat expansion, because once the engine heats up, you might get a little bit closer, by a thousandth, maybe a thou 5 on it. And if something's off, it doesn't take much for the valve to kiss the top of the piston. And I mean, this engine alone, there's like 15 grand into this engine already. We're still waiting for the adjustable cam gears to come in. And now we're probably going to switch out this reluctor. Instead of doing a factory forward one, we may end up doing that MMR billet. We heard those are pretty good. But I'm going to call the company up and ask them now that they've been out for a little while if there's any issues with them. But we may end up going with a billet for this guy, because it's worth spending the extra, $40 for one that's billet versus one that's metal that'll eventually wear itself out. So that's about it. So still got to degree this in, but we can't degree it in until we get the ARP cam bolts and the adjustable cam gears, and then we can kind of work it from there. And then after that, we'll use our degree wheel, we'll use the kit and everything else for this, put it in, and then degree it all up, and it'll be ready to rock and roll. So if you guys got any questions, go ahead and ask them in the comments. I will try to respond as quickly as I can. If you have any outside questions, you need immediate assistance, please feel free to give me a call at my shop. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturdays, we're 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Phone number is 410-596-8985. I do have a lifetime warranty with all of my labor to be free from workmanship and installation errors. So if you guys have work that you don't want done, and we got people that ship us their cars from all over this country. I'll give you a case in point. We got this 240SX came from California. The guy wanted nobody else but me to work on it, so we're rebuilding his engine. This is Clayton's came from Florida, so we're rebuilding his. This is one of our race teams that we're doing. We got a couple little odds and ends to get this thing ready for the bomber class. And you just see we got cars all over the place. We got cars outside. We got a lot of work. We work on BMWs and work on Mercedes. We just got done doing this one, so he's all ready to go. Still waiting for the machine shop to get the block and the head done for this. We're doing a wiring harness and a whole build for that one too. So we got a lot of work, but like I said, I still got time to always bring more in. We got a bunch of transmissions we're rebuilding down there. We got to do an engine job on that Camaro. But yeah, so that's about it, everybody. So I'm ending the video. Like I said, if you like this, man, please go ahead and like it. Go ahead and share it, man. I'd love to get some views on there. And, you know, if you guys can financially help support us through donations, man, that would be absolutely amazing. Because it is Sunday right now. So, you know, I try to do what I can for you guys. And we always have our phone on us to help customers out 24 hours a day. That's something no other mechanic I know of does. So that takes away from sometimes some time with my family. So anything you guys can do to help support us, man, I appreciate it. And again, if you guys want us to do work, send us your work, man. You're backed up by a lifetime warranty to be free from workmanship and installation errors. And we, again, are the #1 engine building company in North Carolina. So I think I might know a little bit about what I'm doing. If not, we'll just duct tape it and send it. Anyway, I love you guys, man. I appreciate the support. Y'all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.